Sophia. She's going to do a Zoom interview with me.
I'm Sophia Haber-Brock, and this is Sophia's Studio. Today I'm joined by musician and rock and roller Bobby Bandiera. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course. So I really want to know about your love for music and your career and really some specific stories and experiences from your career as a musician.
My love for music, I must have been when I was very small, like a baby. My mother would say to me, why don't you stop banging on the car seat when we were in the car? I said, because I can hear the radio and I'm playing along with it. So my love for music started probably at about 4 years old. And it's taken me a long way in my life. I started playing nightclubs in a band that was playing cover material when I was 16, and I quit high school, and my mother was not happy about it. But I promised her that I would get my GED, which I did. And as I worked from week to week to month, to year, I was bringing home more money than both my mother and father were making in a week. So they were like, all right, that's okay, good. I'm glad you're doing that. Music's your life. It's what you want. I wish you would go to school. I said, well, I'll go to school, but I'll go to school for music. So I did. I went to Manhattan School of Music for half a year. And I was like, I had enough of this. All I want to do is play music. And this isn't helping me with that, although it's helping me to understand theory a little bit more. So it was useful in a small way, but to actually play and write and create melodies and songs and write my own songs was on the horizon for me. It didn't happen at a young age of 16 as I was, but it happened later because at that age, I was introduced to working with my ability to play and sing and making really good money. So at that age, I was overjoyed to just do that. And then when I saw, how great it might have been for guys that were writing songs and being successful with writing songs and creating music on their own that people around the world would love and buy their records, I was like, that's pretty good. I should give that a shot. Write my own material. Not everyone is so lucky as or so talented as others that have written songs and become so successful with them. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Tom Petty, and a whole slew of others that became successful doing it, writing their own material and singing their own songs. At one point before the 60s, most bands that were successful in what they were doing in singing and playing didn't write their own material. At some point, early 60s or so, maybe even late 50s, because Chuck Berry was one of the artists that was writing his own songs, recording his own songs, and having the luck and good fortune to have them played on radio. So he became a big star. And from there, the Beatles listened to what he was doing, and the Stones listened to what the Chuck Berry was doing, and Ray Charles was another big star. He didn't necessarily write his songs. He did other people's songs. So most artists from that 50s era did not write their own songs. Some of them did, but most didn't. But in the 60s, people started writing their own material and performing their own material, and became very successful as bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and so on and so forth. So my love of music stems from, I guess, just from a young age, enjoying what I was hearing on the radio. My mother was a big fan of music, so she always had records in the house that influenced me at why and how, and that's pretty great. The way they're singing and the songs that they're singing about and putting together, if they did write them themselves. Johnny Cash was one of those artists. Roy Orbison was another one. So they influenced me to sing and play, and then later on to write my own songs. The Beatles were big as an influence to me wanting to write my own songs. And it's work. It's work just to sit down one day and say, well, I want to write a song. I hope it's as great as All You Need Is Love, or Imagine, two Beatles songs, or any big song on the radio. Not going to happen your first time trying. Probably not going to happen your 10th time trying. It may start to happen around 50 times when you're really getting good at putting everything together that makes a song, and that's lyrics, and that's melody, and that's music, and that's the beat behind it. All those things are all essential in having a good song. And those guys, let's take the Beatles, for instance. They had this magical way of writing songs that were almost instantaneous hit songs. They were getting a lot of attention by the media, radio stations that wanted to play their songs because they were good. They were great songs. So it worked hand in hand. They wrote them, and they had an outlet to have them listened to by radio stations that happened to like them. And they did well, obviously did well. They're probably one of the biggest and best rock and roll bands that ever existed. So, all those four ingredients are what you really need to work on as far as writing is concerned. And the more you work on it, the better you become at it. You look at something you had written 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and you're like, that wasn't that good. I think I'm writing a lot better. And you get better at it if you have the passion for it. It's like anything else. If you have the passion for art, your first drawing is probably not going to be great. And maybe your 10th drawing is probably going to be okay. But eventually, if you really stick to it and have the passion for it, you're going to see something, and people are going to be telling you, you did that? That's really good. That doesn't always happen either, because if you don't have what it takes innately, you could go on trying forever and nothing's going to happen. But you have to have, it is somewhat of a gift to be able to sing and play and perk people's ears up that are listening to you and keeping them interested in what you're doing. And to sing is not easy. Not everybody could do it. A lot of people think they can. A lot of people think they could play the guitar. A lot of people think that they're good at football. A lot of people think they're good at basketball. A lot of people think they're good drivers. And their record shows not so good. Not so good. So you got to work at it. And it doesn't come easy. It's work. And to be the best at what you do is work. Got to work at it. And the more passion you have for it, maybe the quicker you'll get there, because you really want it if you're passionate about it. So I hope that answers your couple of questions there in a nutshell.
Yeah, definitely. And what was your first like big break, or how did your real career begin?
My first big break. I don't know if it was a break, but when I was 14, 15 years old, I had a band with my brother on drums and a couple of neighborhood guys. One guy on guitar, one guy on bass. And the guitar player's dad was a landscaper. And he happened to be cutting the lawn of a music producer from Capitol Records. And he talked the guy into coming and seeing us play in a basement as we were rehearsing. And you could tell that on the guy's face after he listened to us. It's like, yeah, okay. I'll think about it. But my friend's father was pretty relentless. So a couple of weeks, maybe a month went by, and he convinced the guy to maybe take us into the studio. We'll pay for it. The fathers all pooled their money and got us in the recording studio to see if it would work. And everybody liked it. Everybody was into trying to make it work. Nobody had written any material to bring into the studio and record. We did I think we did a Young Rascals song. The name of it was Groovin'. And we listened back to it after we recorded it. And we're like, wow, this is really cool. We hear ourselves and we think to ourselves, if we get good at this is going to be fun, because it's really laying out in front of us a path that the more you get into it and the more that gets revealed in the way of how much fun it could be to actually be good at it and get good at it, it could be a lucrative thing in writing your own material and making songs, and maybe people will buy them. Maybe people will play them on the radio station. But that was the first time in being in touch with somebody professionally, and who was professional in the business. He was a music producer. His name was Horace Ott, and he worked with Capitol Records. I think he worked with Aretha Franklin, and he had worked with the Animals, a band called the Animals that was played a lot on the radio alongside the Beatles and the Stones in the 60s. In any case, they had a song called House of the Rising Sun. You know it?
Yeah.
There is a house in New Orleans. They called, and the song he had worked with them on. I can't remember what it was. A big hit record. I can't remember what it was now, though. Might have been Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood. In any case, that was the first rub with somebody professional in the business. And we were young. We were in our teens. We were 15 years old. Years went by playing nightclubs on the Jersey Shore circuit, the whole state of Jersey from north to south, playing in cover bands. And then an opportunity had arisen. I was playing at the Stone Pony, and I had become friends with these guys who played with Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes. And they were making records. Little Steven Van Zandt was writing their songs, was producing their records for them. Bruce was giving them songs, Bruce Springsteen, because they were all friends. And they needed a guitar player. The guitar player was leaving the band, Southside. So I joined his band, and we wrote a couple of songs, went on a couple of Southside's records, he and I, collectively. I remember writing a song called Under the Sun with Patti Scalfa, who was married to Bruce Springsteen. She was also a songwriter, singer at the time. And I'd met Bruce not too far after that, I can't remember what year that might have been. I think it was 1985. You know what? I met Bruce before I even joined Southside's band, because 1981 is when Bruce would come up with my band, Cats on a Smooth Surface, at the Stone Pony every Sunday in the summer of 1981. And we became friends. Southside, joined my band, joined his band. We made a record shortly after me joining. At least we got shoes. And it was a silly title for an album, but that's a whole other story. In any case, Bruce would frequent the Pony. I still played the Pony when I was off the road with the Jukes, with my own name, Bobby Bandiera Band. And it was one meeting one guy after the other guy. And you could meet all the guys you want, rub elbows with all the guys you want. But if you don't have enough to offer in the way of some kind of talent, you're kind of just another guy to them. If you're good at what you do, they're gonna perk, their ears will perk up. They'll hear what what you're singing, and they'll see what you're all about. And if you're any good, you may wind up doing a project with them here and there, which is what happened with Bruce, and certainly with Southside. And it was, I remember getting a phone call, meeting Bruce. I was friends with a couple of his bandmates, Gary Talon on bass and Max Weinberg on drums. And Max called me up one day and he said, I know John Shear is a big promoter in the state of New Jersey, music promoter, tri-state area actually. And he's got a British rocker, Dave Edmonds, that he manages, and he needs a guitar player for a tour. What do you think? I said, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'm a big fan of his. So I worked with Dave Edmonds for a couple of years. That was a lot of fun. It was probably the best rock and roll band I'd ever played in. He had just a great little 4-piece, 2 guitars, bass, and drums. The material was perfect for it. He didn't always write his songs either, although he had written a couple. But there's artists that were out there that didn't write all their material and had a great career. There's bands out there that are megastars from doing songs that they never wrote. Three Dog Night was one of them. The Vanilla Fudge was another band that was. There's several, but to write and to play and to sing is the way to go. That's when you can put your name on it, and if it becomes a hit or successful in any way, people are going to start to take notice of who you are. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, the mid '80s touring with Southside led me to plug in with a couple of these other artists, and those are big artists that were big at the time. I don't think a couple of those guys aren't really as big as they were in the 80s, 90s. You kind of fall off if you don't keep writing songs that get played on the record. But the music industry changed too. Radio changed. Radio was not playing. They were only playing what they wanted to play, where they should have been given more people a chance if they were good. But that's the way it went, and that's the way it is. Today, it's pretty tough in the music business for any of the kids that are writing, any of the kids that are really good at what they do, playing guitar, drums, keys, singer. It's just harder to get a foothold because they're not spending money anymore. They want to know that you have a hit record before they're going to put any money into you. And to write a hit record it's not easy. If you could write a hit record, everybody would have one. You would have one, right?
Yeah.
Do you think you're a writer in any way? Do you write at all?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Like I said, anybody and everybody could have a hit record. oh, it seems so easy. Let's just do it and see where it gets you. Sometimes it'll get through, maybe 1 in 1,000 or less than that. You'll hear a good song, a good melody, and a good lyric. Anyway, there were a couple of opportunities that had popped up for me. Bon Jovi had come to see me play with Southside. I joined him on a few projects with his band. I joined him on a couple of solo projects. He was on the board for the White House, and the Eunice Shriver had Special Olympics. She was head of Special Olympics. She started the organization to help people with special needs. Bon Jovi was on the board, and what they would do from time to time is have a concert, have it televised, have artists come and sing and play and sell the CDs and donate it all to Special Olympics. I was on 2 of those shows at the White House, and that was great because I got to rub elbows with people like B.B. King and Eric Clapton, Stevie Wonder. Tom Petty was actually on one of those shows with his band, the Heartbreakers. I didn't necessarily do anything with him. He was just on the show as an artist. But I was in the house band both times, and I got to play with some of those artists, back B.B. King up, back Stevie Wonder up. And it was fun, to have that as part of my memory and in my career along the road of playing music and being involved in music. It was a lot of fun.
Do you have any specific memories from that performance that you can share?
Yeah, I don't always tell everybody, but now that you're asking, I'll tell you. One of those 2 shows, the first one, Eric Clapton was on, and Eric Clapton, to a musician of any era, I'm an older guy, so he's older than I am, so he's my idol, and kids probably don't see Eric Clapton as one of the guys they want to emulate, but they might, they should, because he's just one of the biggest, best guitar heroes that have ever existed. In any case, we had a show together. Eric Clapton was on it, Sheryl Crow was on it, Tracy Chapman was on it, Vanessa Williams was on it, Run DMC was on it, and here we are, day before showtime. Showtime was on a Wednesday. Tuesday, midday into the night, we were rehearsing for the show that we were going to do the next day. All the artists were there. The whole band was there. The drummer, the keyboard players, the horn players, blah, 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 blah. Bass, guitars. So I'm sitting there in the hospitality room right behind the stage, and I look up to see that the room was empty. Now there's at least 15 people that were in that room just 5 seconds before. And I'm like, uh-oh, everybody's gone to the stage. We're going to start rehearsal. I better get going. I look up and Eric Clapton's getting a cup of coffee. And I was like, oh my God, it's Eric Clapton. And, I idolized that guy. In any case, I said, how you doing, Eric? He says, hey. And that was it. I was like, ay. So I just walked out, got on stage, picked up my guitar, and started to rehearse the show. The first song up, I had a guitar solo in the song. It was Please Come Home for Christmas. And after we got done, his song was next, Eric Clapton's song. I don't remember what song it was, but he comes over to me. Everybody's on stage, everybody's behind their instrument. Hey, I said, yeah, hey. He says, do you know if this is the way the show's going to run? Is that the first song of the show? I said, yeah, this is the order that the show's going to be in. He says, well, how the hell am I supposed to follow what you just played? And I was like, excuse me? And the keyboard player's like, say something. I was like, yeah. What? I said, I learned how to play guitar by sitting in my basement listening to your records with Cream. And he goes, oh, bullshit. And he plugs in and we did a song.
Wow.
So a silly little story. The next time we had done the show, 2 years later, B.B. King was on it. Stevie Wonder was on it. Tom Petty was on it. Let me see. We had our rehearsal, and as luck would have it, it was on the night that Al Gore was going to give his speech concurring to Bush having won the presidency. So his speech saying, thank you, I gave it my best shot, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I get a phone call in my room after rehearsal. We're back at the hotel. And it was Bobby Shriver. He says, Bobby, he says, gather up some of the house band. We'll get in a van and we'll go to Gore's house. He's given his speech, that he lost. He had given it and he's having a party. We're going to help him out, get him through his woes that he lost, and drink a couple of drinks. All right, let's get in a van. We all go over there. There's a local band who has their equipment set up. A couple of my guys and I joined, went up on stage on their equipment and we started playing for about an hour. And then John comes in, Bon Jovi, and the Heartbreakers come in with Tom Petty. We stop playing. They get up on stage and they play for about 20 minutes to a half hour, which is pretty cool, that they should do that. They get off. We get back up, the house band, and Stevie Wonder comes meandering in and comes up to the stage, and he's with his guy. And this guy says, Stevie wants to do this song, just follow him. We did, we followed him. Gets done, there was some audience participation. There wasn't many people, it was probably 150 people. And they're singing along with Stevie Wonder, and we're playing behind them and having a good time. He was throwing in. He's, yep, I'll positively play a song. And Al's a good friend, Al Gore, and we'll get him through this. In any case, he gets done, he gets off the stage, and he's walking out towards the exit sign. And I started playing Higher Ground. Let me see. People, people, keep on learning. It's a song he had written, which was a big hit, a radio hit for him, called Higher Ground. And I thought to play it as a nod to Al Gore. Okay, so you lost. Now you got to reach some higher ground and get through it. So he heard it from across the room. He's got to be about 30 yards away. And it looked like he turned around and looked at the stage as if he could see me. He went like this. And he said to his guy, get me back. He says, I want to go up and do that song. So he came back and he did that song. And it was one of those moments for me, like, oh my God, I just got to play that song with Stevie Wonder. And I used to listen to that record when it was out, probably 15 years before that happened. This particular event happened, thinking, how cool would it be to ever meet him? And now I'm actually playing with him. So that went well. It was fun, and I kind of felt like I was part of making it happen. The next day, we're at the dress rehearsal and show day for the show that we're going to do to raise money. And it comes his time to come up and do a sound check. and check his piano to see everything was working. And I'm behind him, behind Stevie Wonder. He says, Bobby, come on over here for a minute. Yes, Mr. Wonder. I asked you not to call me Mr. Wonder. It's Stevie. I said, yes, Stevie. Yes, yes. What can I help you with? He says, I want you to have some. I said, okay. Somewhat. he says, we're going to do the Otis Redding song. Merry Christmas, baby. Sure to treat me nice. No. Merry Christmas, baby. Sure to treat me nice. Baby, feel like I'm living in paradise. Bruce did it. Otis Redding had it first. I'm sure somebody had done it before him, but he was going to do that. He said, I want you to take the guitar solo in the song. I said, no. He said, yes. He says, I heard what you did last night at Gore's place. He says, I want you to take the guitar solo. So I did. And that was another story.
Wow.
Fond memory. So there's a couple for you.
Yeah, I loved hearing the stories. Do you have any other ones?
There's a couple other ones, but they're for another show.
What was it like being back? So I performed with you at the Sun Eagles Golf Club in town last weekend. So what was it like being
You sang great too. I heard you.
Thank you. What was it like being back after like a year of not performing?
That's a good question. As much as I was excited about doing it, it was also, God, I haven't sung and played in so long. I hope I still have it. And that only lasts for about 5 seconds. Once we started playing, I was like, yeah, there it is. Let's do this. The girls are here to help us sing some background, and that was you and 6 other girls, right? And one of them was Madeline, whose name I forgot to mention at first.
Yeah.
Was she upset? She was upset?
Oh, no, she wasn't upset at all.
She looked at me like she almost was going to start crying. I said, did I forget anybody? She says, me. I said,
yeah, I felt so bad for her. I was standing next to her.
I had to make a big deal out of it after that. So actually, she got more attention than everybody else. But it was fun. It was fun doing that. You girls were great. You'll do it again.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I'm going to do a show in September. And we'll put something together for you girls too, for backgrounds. Yeah, right? That's a promise.
Thanks. And I know I've only worked with you so we were supposed to do that concert last year, before the pandemic hit. And I remember me and the girls, we went to your the dress rehearsal in the studio. I forget, it was across the street from Count Basie, and it was so cool to watch you work because you're so connected in the music, but at the same time you're also so connected in everything else. You're so connected to your guitar, and then you're oh, you point to the drums and you're oh, make sure you have this, or you're just so aware.
In my career in music, in most of the bands that I worked with, I kind of just assumed the responsibility of a guy that was going to help the main guy as much as I can. And if that meant to see if the keyboard player was playing the right part, to see if they were singing the right background part, see and hear if they were playing the right background part, I just became more and more in tune to making sure that was correct. And then when you're doing your own shows, like we did this Tom Petty tribute, I've done many tributes at the Basie Theater before we got to work together a couple of weeks ago. I did Motown, I did Phil Spector, I don't know, many, 8 to 10 tribute shows, Roy Orbison. In any case, because I'm in charge, because I'm driving, and because I'm kind of the leader of the band, it's my responsibility to make sure I have an ear out for what everybody else is doing to make sure that it's getting done correctly. And when you hear and see over the years that somebody's not capable, or they're just not adept to giving you what you need, they kind of fall by the wayside. You don't use them anymore because they can't give you what you need to make it great. I don't want it to be good. I want it to be great. So if they can't give you that, they kind of fall by the wayside, playing or singing. But I've got a good group of guys that I use, and I always wind up back with them. And there's a reason, because they can give me what I need to make a show happen, no matter what it is. If it's horns or if it's a lot of background harmonies, and it's my job to pay attention. And because if I hear it before it gets to the stage, before it gets in front of an audience, and I correct it, that means it's not going to happen. The audience is never going to see that it was ever wrong because I fixed it already. If I fixed it and then they bring it and they mess up, it's like, oh, why does he have people like that with him on stage that can't handle the job? And then your reputation starts to falter, and that's not good, because then you work less. Then you're getting less phone calls. How about doing this show? You won't get 4 phone calls. You'll only get 1 instead of getting 4. So you want to do it because you love doing it. I love doing it. I love playing music. I love seeing that it's done correctly. And most of all, I want everybody to have fun doing it when they get up on stage. But if you cross all your T's and dot all your I's before you get to the stage, even if it's to the point where some of them are talking about you leaving the rehearsal space, God, is he a pain in the neck? You know, it's okay, because by the time it gets to the stage, it's going to be great. And that's what I'm there to make sure happens. And I've kind of gotten that cap, that hat, over the years with whatever band I was working with. You know, Southside. Bruce would call me up. Why don't you help me do this fundraiser, put a band together? I know that if you do it, at least I get something that's worth, it'll be good.
Do you think that aspect of yourself was something that stood out to him and why he kept calling you back?
That, and before that, this guy could sing. And with that, this guy could play. So if he's got 3 major contributions, it would be easy to work with this guy and trust that he's going to bring people that are going to be easy to work with. It's not going to be pulling teeth. It's not going to be mediocre. It'll be good. And I think when along the road of trying to make it in the business, you want to impress people. You don't want to go so far as to be obnoxious with it, but if you're doing your job and you're a humble guy, you're going to get noticed. And I think that it's worked for me. So.
And do you have any other stories with Bruce that you can share? A quick story?
Bruce, it's funny. I was just with a couple of my friends today. We were talking about some stories with Bruce. He liked coming around. He liked what he was hearing, so he came around. He visited a lot of clubs and a lot of bands on the Jersey Shore. He lives here, so as he's gone out of the house for a good time that night with his buddy to have a drink or two, you're going to go to nightclubs. And he loves music, so he does go to nightclubs. And he's seen Cats on the Smooth Surface. He's seen me play. He's seen several bands in the area. You know, he's got his favorites, I'm sure. Can I depict any particular time? Not really. I don't really have a story like some of the others that I've told, except that it's nice to be asked, you know, by somebody of his stature to help. Will you help me out with this? Because I can trust you. You know, it's a nice feeling that he believes in what I do that way.
Well, what were some of the things that he asked you to do?
Well, just knowing I play and sing, and knowing now that I take what I do serious, and I'm going to bring him a band that when he does his fundraising, that he'll have fun with it. It won't be like, oh my God, what am I doing up here with these guys? So those are the things that, you know, we have in common. I was giving his kids guitar lessons at one point. So I know him, you know, in on a friendly level that way. You should see him at the gym. Used to see him at the gym. Bobby, working out. I said, yeah, working out. That was a couple of years ago. I haven't worked out in a while now, especially with this pandemic thing. But I'm trying to think if there's any one particular incident. I remember one time as he was coming up with my band, it was probably the year 1981. We were playing at the Stone Pony. We did a couple of other bars in the area, the Jersey Shore area. He showed up at this one place. And after he had been up with us 5 or 6 times, I thought there was kind of some friendly camaraderie thing happening. And I probably shouldn't have assumed that at this point. I said to him on a break, because people came up and they obviously wanted a picture with him. I said, would you mind taking a picture with these people? He says, no. I said, oh, okay. No, I don't want to take a picture with them. In other words, don't assume, because we're being friendly with each other and we're getting to know each other, that I would be okay with that, because half the time, as I learned, he would be okay with it. And the other half, he just didn't want to be bothered. And it's kind of like anybody. You don't want to bother them about it. And because he's who he is, he's constantly getting bothered about it. Will you take a picture? Will you take a picture? So you could see half the time him saying, no, I don't want to take a picture. But that's kind of the only thing that sticks out.
And do you think, like, if that same thing happened now, do you think you would say yes? Like, do you think you have more of a friendly?
No, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably learn from that, not to assume. Because we're friends, I could ask him to take it. One or two other things that happened in our relationship, Bruce and I. I'd gone to the Meadowlands to see the band. They had a stint of 7 to 10 shows at the Meadowlands over the years. I think this one was probably 10, 12 years ago. Somebody had mentioned to him that I was visiting. I was at the show and I was sitting backstage. And they came over to me as the show started. And they said to me, Bruce wants to get you up for Hungry Heart. And it was at the stadium. It was, you know, a giant stadium. I was like, well, really? He says, yeah, you know it? I said, yeah, I know it. He says, all right, it's going to get you up. So comes time and he's announcing, a good friend of mine is here, ladies and gentlemen. He's he's a sweetheart of New Jersey, Bob Bandiera. And there were people that were cheering, you know, there were people that didn't know who I was, but I went up and did Hungry Heart. That was fun. It was fun to get up there in a stadium in front of 60,000 people. with Bruce and the band. And then a few years went by, and I was at another show, and somebody said, Bruce wants to get you up again. He said, okay, I'm going to have to start charging him for this now. Can't just be getting up there. So that one I did from small things, big things, one day come. And he had written that song and given it to Dave Edmonds, whom I toured with. And he knew that. So he knew that I knew the song, but he also had done it at the Stone Pony with me. We had done it a bunch of times. So he knew that I knew the song, got me up. And I was thrilled. And I was, jumping up and down out of my skin and singing and playing. And we get done with the song, and I'm waving and thanking him. And I think Steven says to me, all right, you had enough fun. Get the hell off the stage. I was like, hey, I have a moment here. Yeah, get off the stage. Anyway, those times are memorable times. It's music's been good to me, and I like to think that I've been good to it. And I'm writing more these days. I did a couple of songs interspersed at the Petty show. The show I'm going to do in September 10th and 11th, it'll be a 2-hour show, and 1 hour will be all my original material. And the other hour is going to be dedicated to people that I've played with over the years. So there'll be Southside songs in there, Southside and the Asbury Jukes, some Bruce songs in there, some Dave Edmonds songs in there. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. You'll be there.
Yeah.
You'll get you to sing background again.
Can't wait.
You and the other girls. All right.
I love your song, Come On, Caroline.
Okay. Thank you. I was married when I wrote that. My wife was like, who is she? I said, there is no she. It's a fictitious thing. I don't know a Caroline. I'm just asking. All right. Relax. There's no Caroline.
Why did
Anyway.
you choose Caroline?
What's that?
Why did you choose Caroline?
I don't know. That's a good question. Why did I choose Caroline? It just popped into my head I was writing the song, and a couple of lyrics came out here and a couple of lyrics came out there. I needed a title. I don't know what to call it. It's obviously about a girl. It's not about any particular girl, but Caroline came to mind. It probably fit the other lyric, rhymed or something. Actually, it doesn't rhyme with anything, does it? Come on, Caroline. Yeah, I don't know about that. And anyway, any case, you do like it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this is my last question. Do you have any advice for aspiring musicians?
Yes. If you're serious about it, give it everything you got. If you think that it's something that you can't stop thinking about, you can't stop playing that guitar, you can't stop playing those drums, you can't stop playing that keyboard, you can't stop singing because you've done it a few times, and the first couple it wasn't that good, and then it started getting better, and then it started getting better, and you're thinking to yourself, I could really turn this into something. And that's what I was trying to explain to you at the beginning of the show. You got that passion, If you are passionate about it, go for it. Don't worry about your mother yelling at you about not going to college. If you could do both, that's the way to go. But if you're going to have to pick one, music's not so bad.
Thank you. It was so good to get to hear your stories, and it's really inspiring.
It's nice to talk to you.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
You too.
Gotta make sure I shave. Alejandra, Mary, and Eden. Miss one? Madeline. I didn't see it. Told you I wouldn't get it right.